You are a 40-year-old man in a Yale University laboratory, and you are about to deliver a potentially lethal electric shock to a stranger. The man in the other room, the one with the heart condition, has gone silent after screaming in agony. The scientist in the gray lab coat standing beside you says, his voice calm and firm, "You have no other choice, you must go on." You look at the final switch on the intimidating metal box in front of you. It is labeled 450 volts, marked only with a stark XXAX. Here is how you arrived at this moment. It begins with a simple advertisement in the New Haven Register. The ad calls for men between the ages of 20 and 50. You are a postal clerk, an engineer, a high school teacher. You are not a Yale student. You will be paid $4 for 1 hour of your time, plus a 50-cent reimbursement for your travel. The purpose: a scientific study on memory and learning. You arrive at the specified time at Lindsley Chittenden Hall, an imposing Gothic building on Yale's campus. The laboratory is not what you expect. It is clean, modern, but somehow austere. The air feels serious, heavy with the weight of scientific inquiry. A man in a gray technician's coat greets you. He is 31 years old, with a neutral, impassive expression. He introduces himself as the experimenter. There is one other participant with you, a friendly, slightly overweight man of 47. He is an accountant. He is likable. The experimenter explains the premise. The study will test the effect of punishment on learning. One of you will be the teacher, and the other will be the learner. He holds out a hat with 2 slips of paper inside. You draw one. It says teacher. The other man draws his. It says learner. You feel a quiet sense of relief. You don't know the draw was rigged. Every single time the real subject, you, is assigned the role of teacher. The experimenter leads all 3 of you into an adjacent room. In the center of the room is a chair that looks like an electric chair from a prison movie, with straps for the arms and legs. He begins strapping the learner into the chair. As he does, the learner mentions offhandedly that he has a slight heart condition. The experimenter replies, in a clipped, professional tone, that while the shocks can be painful, they will cause no permanent tissue damage. He attaches an electrode to the learner's wrist, with a paste to ensure good contact. He says this is to prevent burns and blisters. He then leads you back into the main room, to your station. Your station is dominated by a large, sloping metal box. This is the shock generator. 30 switches are arranged in a neat, horizontal line. Each switch is clearly labeled with a voltage, starting at 15 volts and increasing in 15-volt increments, all the way to 450 volts. Beneath the switches are descriptive labels. They start innocently enough: slight shock, moderate shock. As you read further along the panel, the descriptions become more alarming. Strong shock, very strong shock, intense shock, intensity shock, danger, severe shock. The final 2 switches, 435 and 450 volts, are marked with a simple, ominous 30. The experimenter wants you to understand the machine. He tells you, before we begin, I want you to feel a sample shock. He straps an electrode to your wrist, the same kind now on the learner. He moves to the generator and presses the 3rd switch, marked 45 volts. You feel a sharp, unpleasant buzz jolt through your arm. It is definitely real. The test begins. The experimenter sits behind you while you face the generator and a microphone. The task is a word pair memory test. You read a list of pairs, like blue box or nice day. Then, you read the first word, blue, and 4 possible answers. The learner, listening from the other room, must press a button corresponding to the correct answer. A light illuminates on your console showing his choice. He gets the first few correct. Then, he makes a mistake. The experimenter instructs you. For each wrong answer, you must announce the voltage, then press the corresponding switch. Wrong! 15 volts, you say into the microphone. You flick the first switch. You hear nothing from the other room. Another wrong answer. 30 volts. You press the switch. Silence. 45 volts. Silence. 60 volts. Silence. Then at 75 volts, you hear a distinct grunt of pain from the other room. You hesitate for a fraction of a second. You glance back at the experimenter. He sits stoically, clipboard in hand. He gives a slight nod. You are to continue. At 120 volts, the learner's voice comes through the wall, clear and loud. He shouts that the shocks are starting to be painful. You look at the experimenter again. He avoids eye contact, staring at his notes. His presence is a silent command. You continue. The next wrong answer requires 135 volts. You press the switch. You hear a pained groan. The next level is 150 volts. This is the moment everything changes. After you deliver the shock, the learner screams, "Experimenter, get me out of here. I won't be in the experiment anymore. I refuse to go on." You freeze. The man has just withdrawn his consent. This is your chance to stop. You turn to the experimenter, your expression full of concern. You say you don't think you should continue. The experimenter does not look up from his clipboard. He speaks in a measured, even tone. "Please continue." It is not a suggestion. It is prod number 1. You protest again. You say the man is in pain. You say he wants to quit. The experimenter replies, his voice unchanged. The experiment requires that you continue. This is prod number 2. His authority fills the room. He is a scientist. This is Yale University. He must know what he is doing. You are sweating now. Your hands tremble slightly as you grip the next switch. You can hear your own breathing. You continue the test. The learner gets another one wrong. 165 volts, you announce, your voice strained. You press the switch. A loud cry of pain follows. The learner's protests grow more desperate with each shock. At 270 volts, the sound from the other room is an agonized scream. You stop again, pleading with the experimenter. You are agitated, digging your fingernails into your palms. Some participants in your position laugh nervously, a bizarre, uncontrolled reaction to the extreme stress. The experimenter looks at you. It is absolutely essential that you continue. Prod number 3. At 300 volts, the learner shrieks that he will no longer answer the questions. He will not even participate in the test anymore. You report this to the experimenter. The experimenter states that no answer must be treated as a wrong answer, and a wrong answer must be punished. You deliver the 300-volt shock. A shrill scream follows. You deliver 315 volts. A violent, prolonged scream. You deliver 330 volts. Then, there is nothing. Just silence. You continue the test. You read the next word pair. You wait for an answer. The light on your console does not illuminate. The learner is silent. Following instructions, you treat the silence as a wrong answer. You announce 330 volts. You press the switch. Only silence answers you. The silence is far more terrifying than the screams. Is he unconscious? Has his heart condition flared up? Is he dead? You turn to the experimenter. You tell him you think something is wrong with the man. You not hear him. You will not continue. This is the final test. The experimenter looks you directly in the eye. He does not raise his voice. He does not show emotion. He delivers the 4th and final prod. You have no other choice. You must go on. You argue. You say you are responsible for what happens to the man. The experimenter counters, "I am responsible." Continue. The weight of his authority, of the university, of the scientific setting, presses down on you. He has accepted responsibility. He is the expert. You are just a volunteer who is paid $4.50 to be here. You have a job to do. You turn back to the shock generator. Your hand shakes. You announce the next voltage level into the microphone, into the suffocating silence. 345 volts. You flip the switch. Nothing. 360 volts. Flip 18 tray. Pony. Nothing. You move past danger, severe shock. You are now in the section marked only with X. You are an ordinary person, following orders. You deliver 435 volts. Then, finally, you deliver the final shock. 450 volts. The experiment is over. The experimenter makes a note on his clipboard and says the session is complete. You slump in your chair, drenched in sweat, your heart pounding. You are filled with a sickening mix of relief that it is over, and a profound, gnawing guilt for what you have just done. Then the experimenter stands up. He walks to the door of the other room and opens it. He beckons you to come with him. You walk in, dreading what you will find. There, standing beside the chair, is the learner. He is unstrapped. He is on his feet. He is smiling. He was an actor. His name is James McDonough. The screams were recorded. The shock generator was a prop, only the 45-volt sample switch was real. The entire setup was a carefully designed illusion. The study was never about memory or punishment. It was about you. It was about how far you would go in obeying an authority figure when commanded to violate your own conscience. You are one of 40 participants in this first version of the experiment. You learn the stunning result. 26 out of 40 men, 65% of ordinary people just like you, proceeded to flip every single switch all the way to the maximum 450 volts. Every single participant continued to at least 300 volts. The psychologist behind the one-way mirror was Stanley Milgram. He would go on to conduct numerous variations of this experiment. He found that obedience dropped significantly when the experimenter gave orders by phone, or when the teacher had to physically force the learner's hand onto a shock plate. When two other teachers, both actors, were in the room with you and refused to continue, your own obedience almost always vanished. The power of the situation, not just your personal character, was the driving force. Milgram's experiment ignited an ethical firestorm. Critics argued the psychological distress inflicted on participants was too high a price for scientific knowledge. But the findings were undeniable and terrifying. They revealed a dark, uncomfortable truth about human nature, the immense power of authority, and the surprising ease with which ordinary people can be led to commit harmful acts. That's the story of Stanley Milgram's obedience experiment. A follow-up survey conducted a year later found that 84% of the participants stated they were glad to have been a part of it. Subscribe to Enlighten Me for more.